Good evening and welcome to a very special edition of the Cockney Magpie, joined by my co-host, Sav. How are we going, Sav?
Hey, I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Nervous for some reason. I don't know. I'm joined by Shade. What's happening, Shade?
All right.
Or SoCal Geordie, as most people know on Twitter. But we've just found out my guy's got the coolest name in Twitter history.
You blush. You're making me blush. Appreciate it.
Wearing a proper retro there. I like that. And then I'm not sure if people know my phone guest. We've got a certain man on called Warren Barton. I think he used to play football. Is that right, Warren?
Yeah, you just dragged along. You asked a few other people, but they couldn't make it. So being a Cockney broadcast company, which we might have to have subtitles underneath for this for some of the people. But yeah, looking forward to it, guys. Looking forward. The others couldn't make it, so you phoned me up. No problem.
Do you know what? I needed to who I understood for a change.
You're south of the river. I'm north of the river, so
proper end of the river. I'm from.
We don't go over that side. It makes your skin crawl going over there. But all good, all good.
Do you know what? The only time I go through the north is to get to Newcastle, so it's nice. It's lovely.
It's a good excuse to go. Good excuse to go.
So what we do normally, we sit here and we talk about all of our favourite seasons and try and distract ourselves from the current going-ons at the club, which we're not going to get into because we don't want to depress ourselves. So what we're going to do, I'm actually going to start with Shade, and we're going to talk about your favourite ever Newcastle season.
It doesn't get a high vote from many other people, but you know, I've got to go with 2012, 2013, and purely for sentimental reasons. That was the year I moved to Newcastle. I moved up there to go to uni, and so as you do, I just did student things. And one of my mates was from Norwich, and he's like, "Oh, you've got to I like football and everything like that." I'd grown up just watching national football, though, just Mexico really, and then so I didn't really have a club, and so my mate from Norwich took me to see Newcastle play Norwich in September of 2012. Demba Ba scored the only goal. It was when Chris Hughton came back to St. James Park for the first time. And like I tell everybody that'll listen to me about Newcastle, I went up the stairs of St. James Park a tourist. I came down a Geordie. Like the minute they got the passion and everything about it, it was just intoxicating. And I've had the bug ever since. It's been Newcastle or die, like ever since that moment in my life. And so yeah, so that's my favorite season. And you know, of recent times, it was a great. I mean, we didn't finish well, but you know, it was our last spell in Europe. We still had a quality side, in my opinion. And it was just, you know, obviously we had a lot of much, you know, we have bigger history and everything like that. But for me, and you know, for some dumb punk from Los Angeles, like that season meant a lot to me. Yeah.
Was that was the season after we finished fifth, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we still had core players. It was. I remember parts of the season. It was a strange season. I mean, it was nice to have a UEFA Cup run back. I mean, that's what I've always loved the most as a Newcastle fan is the European football. And to have it back at St James's Park under the lights and some of the games was phenomenal. Yeah. But as you say, the squad was decent and it should have done better that season.
Yeah.
But it's nice memories. Just remembering players like T.A. and Kabai, Demba Ba, who for me is probably the best striker we've had since Shearer. I don't know if anyone else agrees.
I definitely place him up there.
Doesn't agree. Yeah?
Yeah. I'm just trying to think. To be fair, there's not been too much opposition, is there, since Demba?
No, not massively.
So you're not exactly pushing the boat out, but yeah, I would say Demba. Yeah, I would say both of them. He said well, those quality players.
Yeah, brilliant. It's a good team, and it's a disappointing season because I think the European football sort of overrode the Premier League. Because I think we finished. Did we finish 16th, 15th, 16th that season?
16th, yeah, 16th. And you can see that was evident, and it was, you know, being an outsider coming into it, it was, you know, Pardew was kind of coming in on a high because he had placed fifth. We had European football again, and so I came in with like everybody liking Pardew, and then I immediately got to see that switch happen that summer, like very quickly, and I was like, wow, this is this is a massive shift. But that was a good season. I mean, you know, I think that Sissoko's best performance for us was his debut against Chelsea. Those 2 goals and that 3-2 win. You know, and I mean, I haven't really rated him much since, but that debut was amazing, and it really got everybody excited for him. And you know, they became a bit of an actor. But other than that, it was I really enjoyed that match as well. And I, you know, I was still in my honeymoon phase, so I was just loving every second of it. It didn't really matter.
We're still there.
I think it is that, though. Like I said last week, that first season where you know, become a supporter is actually a really special season. I mean, I'm probably a bit older because mine was like 96, 97, but it just sort of is the season where you fall in love with football and you fall in love with Newcastle as a team. And it's actually, you know, as a standout season, that was mine. I spoke about it last week. But yeah, I definitely think it's that first season.
It's the passion, isn't it? It's the passion of the crowd, the passion of the fans. The city in general is just passionate for one club. And obviously, I'm from London, and I'm sure Warren will back me up on this. There's so many clubs that it just does not feel the same. I'm from an area where the biggest team is either Palace or Millwall, but none of the fans around the area are Palace or Millwall. They're all Man United, Liverpool.
Yeah.
Later years, Chelsea. So to have one club in the city that everyone follows regardless, it's just a phenomenal experience.
I think from my experience as well, you know, being born in London, playing in London, and then going to the North East, it's so important. You know, London is so cosmopolitan and busy, and like you said, you've got Man United fans, Liverpool fans, Arsenal fans, Tottenham, they're all over. But in Newcastle, your first experience and your first time and your first love is that it has a special feeling and it has a special place that, you know, if you're born in that area, you don't have a choice, and you don't really want a choice. You're going to support Newcastle, where in London or even Manchester, you might go for another team like Everton or Liverpool or Man City or whatever, Macclesfield, whoever it may be. But in the North East, that's all you support, and that's going to be your uncle or your aunt. They buy you a shirt, you wear that, you start understanding what the whole football club means to the area. If you're doing well, the city's doing well. If people are going into work happy, that goes into the taxi drivers, to the nights out, to the nightlife, to the restaurants, to the bars, and it has a knock-on effect. Where in London, with all due respect, if Chelsea win, London's still going to keep going, Manchester's going to keep going, but Newcastle has that special connection with the club. And that's what's been missing, you know, for a long, long time, where the club and the fans are as one. It's been one or the other. And that's what's been disappointing for me, looking from a distance. But definitely, you know, like you said, being in London, you've got so many different clubs to choose from. But in Newcastle, you don't have a choice, and you don't really want one. You want to be there. And that's the first thing for the likes of me, Les Ferdinand, when we first went up there, coming from Queen's Park Rangers and Wimbledon. You know, you've got 3 hours before the game, you've got people walking to the stadium, all dressed in black and white, all ready to go from all over the world, predominantly from the North East. But you're starting to get fans that are coming off the train, start walking up the hill, getting ready for the game, building up the atmosphere, looking in the pubs, getting the excitement of the game that's coming along. And as a player, you feel that. Now, you either sink or swim with that. You either thrive in that environment, and we did, and we thrived in it, or some people find it very, very difficult and it suffocates them. But it's just such a unique and special place that it's so diverse from anybody else, any other football club that I know, because it is about the city. It's not like Rangers where it's about a religion. This is about your football club that is the heart and soul of the area and the region. And that's why when you do walk into St James's Park for the first time, maybe not now, but in them times we're talking about, particularly in the 90s, 2000s, the place was rocking. The nightlife was rocking. The whole vibe about people was having, you know, I think it got voted in the top 10 best nightlife in the world in Newcastle. And that was predominantly down to the team being successful, because everybody loved the money, wanted to be there. I mean, I was getting 20 tickets a game because all my mates wanted to come up, watch the game, and then go out for a night out. So, yeah, that's how you have that much influence in an area. And, you know, that's what other people don't really understand. They don't understand what the club and what the connection is with the football club, the area, and the fans, because it is a three-way thing.
Definitely. It's one of those things, I think, unless you live it, you don't get it. When I try and explain to people the passion and why I love the club so much, when you explain the reasons behind it, they just don't get it because they don't get the same feelings from their own clubs. And I think you're right, Warren, in what you're saying. You either sink or swim, and there's so many players in recent history that just haven't been able to handle the hype of, yes, the fans expect, but then the players should be feeding that expectation and delivering it on the pitch. And there's a lot of players of recent years, Jermaine Gina's probably been the most high-profile one, that couldn't handle that pressure that Magpie brought along.
Yeah, I mean, there was one famous, and you said about the 95-96 season and 96-97 season. John Dale Thomason, Les Ferdinand left. Kenny said he wasn't going to play every game, so Les left and went to Tottenham. John Dale Thomason come in, and he's been doing very well in Holland, Danish international, good player. First game against Sheffield Wednesday, he gets through one-on-one, missed the target. The moans and the groans from the fans because he's missed the target. He couldn't get over that. It took him. He could never get over that. The year we got to the cup final, he had to leave. Went back to Holland, did well, went to AC Milan and won a Champions League. So even the top class players that have won Champions League medal couldn't handle that expectation, that disappointment of, when you're walking down the street and you're going to the supermarket, how are we going to do this week? And what we're going to do, how are we going to play? You go into the restaurant, what you're going to do, how you're going to play, what you're doing, what happened the weekend. And you have to give time. And some people can't handle it. In London, Andy, you put your baseball cap on, you walk along, no one really is worried about it. And as I said, you either thrive in that environment and want to have that responsibility that myself, Gary, Bob Lee, Alan Shearer, Shay Given, we wanted that. We felt a responsibility to the people. And that's why we still get angry about what's happening and we get frustrated about still believe. Look at what Chelsea are. 10 years ago, they wasn't that. They was fighting relegation like we are. And now, because of the circumstances that people have come in and invested into the club and recruited well, they're competing. And that's all Newcastle fans want to do. They want to compete. They want to feel like they have a chance, because that's why they work so hard Monday to Friday. So they want to go at the weekend to feel like their team. That's all it is. If you can't handle it, then get out of the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't have said it better, but what a list of players you just named, by the way. Jesus. Can you imagine that being your team that you play with week in, week out? Don't think I'd have been able to handle it, mate. Like, wow.
It was for 5 years.
Yeah. You think the players you played with, and it's just...
Imagine sharing a room with David Dinolo every other weekend. There you go.
I think many could handle that.
Big Al and people like that.
Well, I've heard about Les Ferdinand.
It was a great time.
Through Gazza's story. So.
Watch it. That's why I had to get out of
the room. We'll keep it PG though, but listen to Gazza's story about Ferdinand at Euro 96 and you'll understand why.
No. Leave it. That's why it's called Celeste.
That's as far as we're going with Leslie's ability.
Performance.
Right, so performance. I can't even concentrate now. Right, so knocking back to Shade quickly. Just talking back on your season. Who was your standout player for that season?
Well, I immediately fell in love with Baugh because he scored for us at the first match that I saw. So I couldn't, that immediately attracted my eyes and everything like that. But I have a really big soft spot for Tiote. And I think at the time I thought he was a great player. And then I had the opportunity to meet him once and he was just really, really, really sweet to me and everything like that. And just such a nice guy. And, it was so tragic what happened to him. But also I think just going forward, our lack of preparation in replacing him has just been so evident since. And so he's definitely one of those players that I loved in the season that I saw him, but grew to appreciate even more as times passed. Those two for me, definitely, like, love Cisse. I think Gouffran was my most frustrating player since falling in love with the club. But and Ben Arfa, like, when I first came on board and everything like that, was amazing. And you really couldn't not be mesmerized by him just weaving through everybody the way that he did and everything like that. So, you know, like there was just so many players to choose from. But if I had to pick one, I'm actually going to go with Tiote. Yeah. From that season, for sure. Yeah.
He was a beast. He was such a phenomenal player.
Yeah.
God bless his soul.
I know. Rest in
but
peace.
What a player he was. But no, you're right. We had some great talent that season. Some great talent.
Can't not talk about Kabaye as well, you know, and
the Dreamboat.
Dreamboat.
It was a good season. It's always the same. The one that you fall in love with is the one that you always remember. Mine's a lot older than that, but it's still a great season. I think it was the season before for you, for your own personal feelings, because the season before we were unreal. Like the season we came fifth, we were just outstanding. And Cisse, well, you've seen the goals. The two against Chelsea are two of the best goals I've seen in the league.
Yeah.
But no, good choice.
Yeah.
Good choice. We're going to move on to Mr. Barton. And what is your personal favourite standout season you played in or watched?
You know, I was lucky enough to be there in the 95-96 season, and some of the football that was played and the style of football, and then to be called the entertainers in an era where the Premier League was really booming and thriving, to be part of that team where you had the likes of Peter Beardsley and Les Ferdinand, the combination that they have, you know, Davy Batty, Rob Lee, midfield, Ginola and Keith Gillespie, Philip Albert, Chipping, Peter Schmeichel, when we beat them 5-0. Now, them type of iconic moments, you know, haven't been seen before. You've never really seen a centre half. You've seen, you know, Vincent Kompany come through and smash the ball and get the winning goal for Man City. But to chip someone like Peter Schmeichel and beat United 5-0, you know, that hasn't been done. The Tizio done it at the Dell a little bit as well. But you know, that type of team, and to have someone like Kevin Keegan to lead the way, coming from a team like Wimbledon that was part of the crazy gang and did whatever they needed to do to win a game, whether it was in the tunnel, on the field, or after the game, doing what they needed to do, to go into that group of players in that environment, and to have 5,000-6,000 people watch you train every day, in the snow, in the rain, in the sunshine, was a special time. And even the iconic, you're wearing the shirt now, the Grandad collar shirts, you know, 10,000 people waiting to buy a shirt at 12 o'clock at night, 15,000 people on the waiting list to buy a ticket to watch a game. To be part of that team was obviously very, very special. But I fast forward a little bit to, you know, the Champions League night against Barcelona with Kenny Dow, 2 cup finals involved with, and it's so that was our luck of the draw in the 2 cup finals. But the time when Sir Bobby come in after Ruud Gullit, that promised sexy football, and nearly, you know, was getting us into a mid-table average team, wasn't working. And then Sir Bobby coming in on the Thursday and just saying to Alan in front of all of us, why'd you keep facing and coming to get the ball? Why don't you face that way and score goals? And we go and play Sheffield Wednesday that Saturday and we win 8-0. And the rest goes from there. You know, he got people like Laurent Robert, Kieran Dyer, Craig Bellamy. You know, we was relentless the way that we play going forward. And so my times with, you know, Sir Bobby Robson was very, very special, that he got us back into the Champions League within 18 months. He got us challenging again, top of the league, going to places like Highbury when they had top players and going to beat them 3-1. Them type of memories is that I have, and I was very, very fortunate to be part of that. You know, I you know, watched a lot of games, and I was working for the media and going up to St James's Park, but I'd never, after that time, seen that type of football. And we've had some good players. You rightly said, you know, Cisse, you know, Kabai, all of these players are good players, you know, wonderful players to watch. But as a team and the chemistry that we had and that togetherness was a special, special time. And that's, again, what holds, you know, everybody so dear to what we did, because we realised that we was doing well. And then when we went outside the stadium, like you said, we checked out, coming to you and signing. That was our responsibility, to sign there, signing autographs. Me, David and Les got out of the car on our first training session. We was nearly late for training. We was there an hour beforehand, but it took us 45 minutes to get out of our car to the changing room because we had to sign autographs. And we wanted to do it. and we're still there. So, you know, that was a special time, but definitely that season, you know, that we played with Kevin was wonderful. But for me as well, the Sir Bobby Robson era holds a real fondness to me, because if you could emulate any manager, it would be him, because he was great tactically, he was great man management, he was great with the media, he was great with the fans, he could be ruthless. He had that side to him that was that made him a wonderful manager, and he's sorely missed by everybody, because he was just a special character, and football in general, not just the North East, not just Newcastle, football in general miss him as well, because if you can live your life and give everything to the game like he did, you won't be far wrong, because he was, as I said, a special man.
Definitely. I think that entire era for me, between 95 to probably 2003, 2004, was the era that I really, really fell in love with the club. It's for the reasons you said. Obviously, there's a few blips. I mean, Hullet didn't do what he was supposed to do. But if you take that out, I mean, Dalglish did all right, but Keegan and Robson, for me, were the ones that really made me fall in love with the club. And especially the Robson years. For me, Robson's the greatest manager we've had at the club. So if you think, Sav?
Because they got it. They understood.
Go on, Warren.
Yeah.
What the club was about. That they understood what the players' responsibility was. So, you know, them type of managers that you said, they got it, they understood it. And Kenny was great man management skill, but you know, he still didn't understand how important the fans were and to be part of it. So, you know, the times that we had, and we had great times with Kenny getting in the cup finals, as I said, but Sir Bobby, we only wish maybe when Kevin left that Sir Bobby could have come in, but obviously he was at Barcelona at the time, because I think with that team that we had, the likes of Ginola, Les, and obviously Alan had just come from Blackburn for £15 million. Bobby would have took us on to that next level and kept that momentum going. So that's the only thing I think Newcastle fans in that era wish, that after KK that Sir Bobby come in, because I do believe he would have kept that brand, that style, but just enhanced it slightly to hopefully get us over the finishing line and win a trophy.
I think we would have won the league under Robson. If it'd come after Keegan, I definitely think we would have won trophies.
I think of Bobby Robson as well was what he was going through in his private life with his health, and the fact that he could still go into the dressing room and have the effect that he did was actually, you know, that was amazing, because a lot of people wouldn't have felt like that with going on in their life with their health. And I watched a documentary, and it was just astounding, even like right up till the end, like with him, you know, with the Bobby Robson Foundation and things like that. He said he didn't want to be remembered for football. He wanted to leave something that actually helped people. And I think that's, you know, that just shows what kind of man he was.
Definitely. He said he wanted to leave a legend, and he certainly did that. I mean, the Bobby Robson Foundation does amazing.
I think you're right. I think you're right. When I think of Bobby, as I said, hairs on my arm stand up. He's just a special man. And, you know, knowing Bobby as I did, and he was even football was more important than life to him, which sounds stupid, but his health was second to football. You know, we was going through, and unfortunately I wasn't there at the end when he was around, but that's what kept him going. Football kept him going, and as soon as he didn't, that's when it deteriorated. And you're right, the legacy of what he's left behind, the foundation is great, and what Alan's been doing as well to support it and push it, and the money that it's raised and the kids that it's helped is brilliant. But just the people that he touched. I remember being at Selhurst Park. We just played Crystal Palace. We was bloody awful. We're supposed to be getting a flight back to Newcastle and training the next day. He was outside 45 minutes with one of the stewards who, you know, was talking to Bobby just about the game, just about game in general. He's there 45 minutes afterwards, and we're having the toot because we're supposed to be getting a flight, and the horn's going, hurry up, Bobby, and wait, and that's how he would be. 45 minutes after, I think we drew the game or even lost it, he was going berserk in the changing room, and then he's chatting to the guy for 45 minutes about football in general. And that's the legacy that he leaves. You know, he has such an input into everybody. You know, when I hear Pep talk, and you're right what you said about the documentary, I can hear Bobby in there about how he handled that adversity being at Barcelona, about the president and how he was being pushed out and who was coming in and how it was all being handled. And he did it with dignity. And you could hear in Pep when he talked about people and about the life, not necessarily football, because I think that comes from Johan Cruyff, but when he talks about how you conduct yourself, I can hear Bobby in him. I can hear Bobby having that. And it's the same with me, how he influenced me and how he influenced a lot of people and how they conduct their life. And particularly what we've gone through in the last year with the pandemic and Black Lives Matters and everything else, you self-reflect a little bit, and you go back to what the right things, and it's the right things throughout his life that affected so many people throughout the game and throughout at Selhurst Park or Guardiola. That's the influence that man had.
He was a man.
So I went off a bit of a tangent there, but I had to because I feel about it.
It's all right, mate. I'll listen all day talking about Bobby. I've got a similar story myself. He actually did a book signing. Not as in-depth as yours, but he did a book signing, and he travelled down to Bromley, and he walked out into Waterstones, and no one said anything. It was silence, clap, not anything. So me, I'm quite house. So I stood on a table and started singing One Bobby Robson. And he pointed at me, ushered me, so I thought, oh shit, here we go, I'm kicked out. And he stood with me for half an hour, 40 minutes, talking to me, talking to my mum, signing my shirt, signing my book, just talking about why I love the club. And I'm sure he was flirting on with my mum, but obviously you allow it because it's Bobby Robson.
Yeah.
Like, I would gladly have said to me, Mum, look, if you want to go off with Bobby's friend, Dad'll understand. But it showed the measure in a man just to actually stand and have a conversation. He didn't know me, but because I made a fuss of him coming in, he obviously decided to make a fuss of me. And I must have only been 15, 16. So for him to spend that. No. Oh, man. Are we all back?
I'm back, I think.
I've never been gone.
Oh, it all went wrong for me then. I had little circles and everything. So
you don't have internet, probably, no? Don't have internet there, no?
I'm in Newcastle now. I live up north. The internet's even worse up here.
Okay, so I thought it was in Bromley. I didn't think they had internet in Bromley. Sorry.
Oh, no, I'm from Bromley. I live in Newcastle now. I live in Forest Hall.
Okay. All right. I forgive you then.
So I'm not too far from the new training ground. But that's it's talk, man. They're terrible. But so would you say that Bobby was probably your best manager?
Yeah, as a package, I think as I said before, with the way he handled the tactics, the players, the media. Kevin Keegan's was wonderful when it was going well. I mean, some of the good times we had with KK. Kenny Dalglish was great in the sense of the way he protected his players and looked after us. I was lucky enough to be involved with Terry Venables as well, just before Euro '96. Tactically, Terry was magnificent. You know, the systems that he played against France and what he did against the Dutch as well in '96 was never been seen before. And he changed things around, was brilliant. But I just think as a whole, way to be a manager, and I think it tells you why I speak about Bobby. You know, he was for me the best of what he could do and how he could do it, and had to replicate a coach. There's no surprise he's gone into different countries and been successful because you see he knows football, he knows people. So that's where he would be mine.
Brilliant. I know it was a tough choice that for you. You probably got the toughest choice out of most players out of those ones, especially the years that you had up here. But Cal, do you remember much about Bobby and Keegan, or is it just through research of the club?
You know, it's honestly just through documentaries and book reading, and obviously like my mates up in Newcastle that I'm really close with, who have been following the club their whole lives, who really helped contribute to the spread of the infection that's consumed my life. But yeah, no, I obviously unfortunately didn't get to experience any of that. I just get to hear about all the glory days from everybody else, and what I do, what I read. Like I read Keegan's book, and I try to read a Newcastle book a month about something prior to when I became a fan, because I want to know everything. So yeah, but only through literature and documentary.
So you need, man. So you need.
Yeah.
Like the memories are just outstanding. What for you? I know you didn't get many, but what was your favourite goal at the club?
My favourite goal?
I know.
Get that many, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I would think the one against Spurs, but I mean, none of them was glorious goals, to be honest with you. But the one that we won 1-0 and scored in an 89th minute, and it was a big 3 points for us that kept some momentum going with Bobby. Again, I was born in North London, so I was an Arsenal fan. Although it sort of changes as you get older and play against them. So the score against Spurs was pretty special. People may remember the 4-3 against Liverpool, where again it wasn't a wonderful goal, but the tap in and just we was awful in the first 45 minutes and losing 3-0, and then we got back in the game, only conceded a Robbie Fowler header in the 94th minute. But to score that goal in front of all the Newcastle fans that was behind the goal, and when I kicked the mic and still had the bill from Sky for £250 that they sent it because I smashed the mic behind the goal. I volleyed that as well. So that would be one of them. But yeah, I mean, it's my job wasn't really to score goals; it was to try and help. But obviously, it's great to score a goal and be involved. So they're the ones that stick in my mind, to be honest with you.
Brilliant. And what for you was the best away ground that you ever played at? Obviously, I know nothing compares to St James's Park, but
I think Anfield is a special place. You're talking about European football and playing night games at Anfield. Old Trafford, 76,000 people there playing it. I mean, he said it to me once, Ian Rush, because and I don't want to be blasé, but you play at these stadiums, at least once a year, twice a year, and you're doing it for 15 years. So you sort of get a bit, it's Old Trafford, it's Anfield, it's Highbury, it's whatever you're playing, Stamford Bridge, and you sort of just get caught up in it. Like every season, you focus, you're in the zone. And Rushy said to me once, he said, in the next couple of years, just because he was like 37, 38, and I was getting to 31, 32, he just said, just take on board where you are, have a look around. And we do it at St James's sometimes.
It's not me this time, is it, though?
No.
I'm fine.
It's just weird. Do you know what, though? It must be such an incredible feeling, like playing at all these different grounds. I bet the first time you go is just incredible.
Mm.
You can just imagine, just like I've played at St James's Park and it was ridiculous, and I wasted the moment because I stood there in awe. And that, but like, I'm lucky that I've been a fan in a lot of the stadiums, and our away support is the best in the country by none. But walking in, you're like, wow, this is amazing. Like the first time I went to Old Trafford, you're there and you're like, Jesus, look at this place. It's incredible.
It's Old Trafford as well.
Do you know what? I'm not sit here in silence, but I'm listening to Warren and I'm just thinking, I look at his tweets as well when we play, and the passion through those tweets alone is more than what you see on the pitch. And it's just great as someone who is, who's now retired football. I wish he'd come back, actually. I think he'd do a better job the way he gets wound up while we're playing. But yeah, I was just sitting there in absolute awe of how much passion he still speaks about it.
It's just listening to the players that he just lists up. They're just unbelievable. Like, they're the players like Shade. I know for you wouldn't have necessarily seen that era, but for me, that's the era where I fully fell in love with everything Newcastle. And he's saying their names like they're just, well, they are. They're pals. It's like I played down the park with mate JP and we met Ian, and you're like, that's all he's doing is he's playing with his pals. And but to us, he's listening off Alan Shearer, Les Ferdinand, Gary Speed. You're like, Jesus Christ. Like, it's madness to think of it. But
sure. And just kind of going off what Sab was saying, like, I totally agree. You can still see just how it's like still so indicative how much he played for the shirt. And he talks about players that played for the shirt. And that's just something that we don't see nowadays, right? And or it's diminishing just rapidly. And there's no loyalty, and there isn't playing for the shirt. And I honestly think that we had a few players that kind of understood that and understood the fans, and I think that that's been silenced a bit now. But we don't have that. We don't have that passion right now, specifically with Newcastle, and people don't understand what it is to play for that shirt, to have that crest on your chest. And it's really unfortunate. It really is, because, I feel really lucky. I had 3.5 years in Newcastle, so almost 4 seasons. And yeah, I'm a new fan, and I came in off the dregs of, our last successful season, one would argue. But I think it's a shame that not enough people in this world understand what that shirt means and what that crest means, and the passion that, just like what Warren Barton was talking about, really, and how it trickles down into the whole city. I had never experienced anything like that. Just talking about London, I'm from Los Angeles. It's the same thing. You've got 2 big NBA teams, you've got baseball, you've got all these people that have moved from all these other places. There's no loyalty. The teams are just an attraction for going to the city. There's no fans. And I've always grown up a fan. Got back. Oh, yeah.
Hey.
There he is.
Sorry, guys. You're not going to believe what happened.
Go
on. The California sun, well, you might believe it. The California sun, my phone overheated because it was in the sun.
5 degrees Fahrenheit right now.
Yeah. So that's got to be the most original excuse ever, that my phone got overheated.
You don't get that up here. Even in July.
I was going to say, don't danger that over here.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry
No,
about
you're fine, mate. We was just talking about you, so.
Okay. I might leave then. I might leave.
No, definitely not. It was all good things. Just saying about the passion that you've still got for the club, it's just unbelievable.
I think you said it yourself. Your first experience, your first love, everything like that is that. I left a really good football club in Wimbledon. That was so unique in its own way of how they did their business, of how we played, that togetherness that we had, and then to transform that into the North East. I went to Wimbledon to become a Premier League player, and I left Wimbledon with a trophy. So that's what, and to get England captain, playing the highest level Champions League. So, that opportunity to go and play for a club like Newcastle was special. And I got told twice I was too small. I played non-league football. I've not come through the traditional way of being in an academy and then playing reserve team football and then going straight into a Premier League team. I've had to work for it. And when I had the opportunity to get there, I wasn't going to walk away from it. And I was lucky enough to be there nearly 8 years, and thoroughly enjoyed it. I get always asked the question, what was your favourite moment? All of it. And that's not any BS. That's not trying to do a sales pitch. The whole time that I was up there, the 220 appearances that I had, I loved every minute. I loved going into training. I loved me, the group players. But I think for the city, for the area, Leicester, Blackburn in the Premier League, it should be Newcastle. And that's the thing that eats me up every time, is that we failed. We didn't really get over the finishing line. But yeah, it's a club in an area that was great to me. It was a great time in my life. My family, the kids, we had a wonderful time. People that I met and teammates of mine and still friends now. So that's why it comes through. And that's why you see, even now, there's a few of us on WhatsApp that we all keep together, and we have a conversation about, whether it's someone's birthday, or now we're getting that bit older, their kids are getting married and things like that. So yeah, it was a special place, and it's a special time of our life. And I think when you hear any of the ex-players speak about it, there's a lot of affection, a lot of passion there in their voices. Even coming from London, which is a myth, because they love, we lost a great one with Glenn Roeder, who was obviously up at Newcastle, and I'm from the south, but that north and south thing doesn't exist. It's just they don't like being lied to. They don't like being made a fool of. And that's whether you're from London, Bristol, or Liverpool. It doesn't really matter where you're from. They just don't like being lied to.
Yeah, I agree. It's all nonsense. The whole Geordies hate Cockneys thing is rubbish. Absolute rubbish. And the funniest thing about all that is Mike Ashley's not even a Cockney. That's the best thing about it all. He's not a Cockney. The man's from the Midlands, so. But we're not talking about Mike Ashley. But the whole North-South thing is massively off the mark. And I can personally about it because I've been around the grounds and in the stadium on away days for the last 20 years. So it's a massive myth.
It did used to make me laugh though when they used to say we go down to London and we 8 Cockneys and me and Rob Lear look at each other and say, "They talk to you or talk to me?" So
that's the thing.
That would be a bit amusing. So that was the only thing. But they was obviously talking to you.
Yeah, it was me,
not me.
I'm standing in the crowd. Okay. I'm in the crowd with my hat pulled down and my coat over, just trying to put on a Geordie accent. But no, it's just songs you sing. Isn't it? There's so many songs that are just songs from the old days, and they're the best songs. I sing it. If I go, we start singing We 8 Cockneys, I sing along. It's just part of the banter, isn't it? So, but for you, Warren, who was the best player that you played with?
At Newcastle or in general?
Newcastle first, but then in general.
I think you don't look no further than obviously Alan Shearer. You know, he come out today with Aguero. You know, is he the best striker to ever play in the Premier League? I mean, Henry before him, and then Alan is the top in my opinion. I think you look at what a number 9 should do, and you know, when he scored over nearly 90 goals more than Thierry Henry, there's something special about Alan. But as a player, Peter Beardsley for me was phenomenal. The things he did in training, the things he did in games. Ginola for the first 6 months was phenomenal. I mean, me and Rob Lee was playing against Hearts in the pre-season, and David terrorised this fullback who was playing for Hearts. And he's the only one, I think, really, he terrorised Gary Neville. He did it to Lee Dixon. He didn't care who he played against. David, at that time, that first 6 months was phenomenal. And he, you know, was a joy to play with. But I think longevity was Pedro. Peter was phenomenal. As I touched on before, I think being around Euro 96 and Gaza at that time, and we've watched that documentary again, which is so sad, you know, when you forget how great Gaza was because of all the other things outside of his life that takes up so much newspaper headlines. But as a player, Gaza was on a different level. You know, he was phenomenal. But then, you know, Zidane, when I was lucky enough to play against him and the players that he was, but Zidane was obviously a pick above that as well. But Peter Beardsley, week in, week out. Gaza was phenomenal with England, and then Zidane was something special. But if you want a number 9 to put the ball in the back of the net, just give it to Al. It was quite easy. I was lucky because you had Asprilla, that was a great player. You had Les, that was a wonderful player. You know, you had Big Duncan Ferguson, which was a handful as well and a good player. But Alan was always that bit above them because he was so hungry to score goals.
He just wanted it so much. You see it in his time. Like, I've seen all the conversations this week about who's the greatest Premier League striker. I actually did a stream where we discussed it, and I'm outnumbered by 3 Arsenal fans, but I still stood there and fought because Alan Shearer, for me, is the best Premier League striker in history. And I stood there and I said, but Thierry Henry is probably the best player in Premier League history. But that's two completely different things. Alan Shearer was your out-and-out goal scorer. That's why he's got 260 Premier League goals.
He's got 90 more goals than Thierry Henry.
Well, that's it. He's got the record at 2 clubs. He's Blackburn's all-time leading scorer and Newcastle's all-time leading goal scorer. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no competition.
I agree with you there. I think Henry was the best Premier League player that we've seen because he had it all. He was, you know, the pace, the skill, score goals, great goal scorer. But Alan, and as I said, the debate is with Aguero leaving, who's the best striker to ever play in and the strikers, their job is to score goals. Mm-hmm. And Alan's done that more than anybody else. And I don't think even Harry Kane will catch him.
No, I agree.
And he's a record. And don't forget, Alan had 2 serious injuries. He had a knee and he had his ankle. Mm-hmm. So he might have got 300 goals the way he was going. So
I think he would have. I think we worked out he missed almost 3 seasons through those injuries. Mm-hmm. And if you average out that through a season, that's probably somewhere between 25 and 30 goals at that stage of his career. But I think with it all going on, I think Aguero is probably the 3rd best striker that's ever been in the Premier League. In terms of strikers, I think you've got Shearer, Rooney and Aguero.
Rooney would
But
be
that's
up there
just-
as well. But yeah, that's another debate.
But that's the thing, and there's so many good. No one comes close to Alan, to be honest.
No. But he's boring. That's his own downfall. He's boring.
You heard it there first. Alan, if you do want to come on and talk, I'm more than willing to have you and Warren on together just for a little debate.
It'll be the longest 10 minutes of your life. It'll be like going to the dentist. It'll be like going to the dentist. Like going to the dentist with him.
Oh, Alan, I love you. I don't know where to go with that one now. Right, so the last question I got for you, Warren, before we move on to creating our all-time greatest team over the years that we've followed the club, is what really made you fall in love with the club? I know you said quite a lot. What was it? What really made you love the club? Because you can see from your tweets, the way you interact with fans, you're really passionate. But what was it that just made you love us that bit more?
I think obviously the passion comes through, but a lot of fans are passionate. But I just, again, going back to how I am as a person, how loyal they are, how loyal the fans are. Whether we go to Coventry, which again was never going to be a great game, but there'd be 7,000-8,000 fans there. I didn't realise how many Newcastle fans was in Coventry. And then you go to Ewood Park, and it's the first time behind a goal it ever got sold out, and it was a Newcastle fans. So just that loyalty of sticking with something so special. So I think that's the first thing. I remember at Wimbledon doing a cool down after the game in February, and I was at Wimbledon at the time, and I said to one of the guys we was doing a cool down with, I said, imagine playing in front of this lot. It was a Tuesday night. It was at that time. It was only 36,000 people there, but it was like 60,000 people. The way the atmosphere was, and let's imagine playing for that, and then to have that experience and just that loyalty to support you and to be with you. That's something that hit home with me. Like our first game, me and Les, the whole stadium was black and white, and that was my excuse to keep mispassing the ball. It was black and white everywhere. And just to have that support was quite overwhelming. I've never had that before. As I said, in London, sometimes we'd have to wait for Wimbledon fans to get out the taxi so we could start the game because they were still coming through the turnstile. So from that point, then to go to the extreme of what the Newcastle fans are, that's something that's hit home. And I just know what it means to them and how tough it's been in this last, however long it's been, that they've had to suffer and endure. But I know the next day, if it changed, they'd be there again. And that's special people. You know what I mean? That's special. That's something special that they'd still be there after what they've gone through and still be back in the team if they felt that there was a bit of hope, if they felt it was done the right way. And that's special because that ain't every club. That ain't every fan. And I know that. I know it. From being there and speaking to other fans, you look at Arsenal fans now or United fans, they're still there. The Newcastle fans, they still want to support their team, and that's what hit home with me straight away.
No, I couldn't agree. But I think even now, you see how loyal the fans are in terms of what we're actually going through at the minute and the negativity around the club. But week in, week out, they're still a Soul Stadium. And that's just for the pure passion of Newcastle United and what it stands for. They're just phenomenal fans. And I'm not just saying that as a fan. I've sat in home ends and watched our fans jumping. They're just incredible.
Yeah, I think as well, like we all sit and we all moan about it, and we're not happy with the current situation, but we're all still there. And that's what you don't get so much with other clubs. It's just the complete passion of it.
It can't be bought.
Your life.
It's just
it's part of your life. When you've been around that, and we're all from the south, most of us, and it's unusual for that because with all due respect, Arsenal fans, and I know people are going to come back. I know we're all the same, but come Monday, Tuesday, they go back to work. But in Newcastle, you can't get away from that because it affects Thursday, Friday until the next game, and that's what makes it different, and it affects you. It has that effect, as I said earlier on in the interview, is that it had that effect that you win on a Saturday, you know, the whole week, everyone, even if it's pissing down the rain, they're laughing and joking throughout. The cab drivers, the people that are in the market, the people that are working in, you know, the shops, they're going with a smile on their face because their team have won and they can't wait for next weekend. And that's special.
And it's the only city that I've ever visited where wherever you are, you can see the stadium, and it overlooks the whole city, and it's just something special. Like, it really is. Warren, when you were at Wimbledon, was it at Plough Lane or Selhurst Park?
I had a year at Plough Lane, and then we transferred over to Selhurst Park and had 4 years there as a tenant. So I had a year at Plough Lane, which was an experience to say the least. But don't forget, I'd come from lower league. Yeah. So that wasn't too much of a culture shock to go from non-league to Plough Lane. But it was quite funny for the likes of Man United. And my first 2 games was the great Liverpool team in the late 80s. And their bath was freezing cold and their sugar was salt. And we did the same thing to Man United the following weekend. So that's what we had to do. But yeah, it was great to be at Plough Lane. And it's great to see AFC Wimbledon back. Fans doing well, and they've stuck with the club, and it's good to see them doing well.
Definitely. I said the only reason I asked is one of my friends is a Wimbledon fan, or used to be a Wimbledon fan, and he asked this really, really silly question, that one. Who has the best atmosphere, Selhurst Park or St James's Park? And I have asked this because he's one of my pals, but we all know the answer.
Should have just got him a drink and told him to shut up.
Yeah, I know, but you know what it's like. They're commenting, and he's constantly commenting, but. You know, but what we're going to do is we do something at the end of the show where we name our favourite all-time 11 as a 4. And it'd be interesting to get your input on this because what we do is we do it 4-4-2 just because it tends to be the fairest. And we just list out. So if we start with goalkeepers, who in your opinion, Shade, would you put in goal?
Goalkeepers.
Yeah.
So when I was asked to pick my all-time, I tried to be inclusive of the history that I've read about the club, but also be mindful of how new I am to the club. So with goalkeepers, I chose to go since I supported, and since I started supporting in 2012, I've got to go with Dubravka.
Dubravka. I think I'm Nico loads of yours, Shade. For me personally, it's Shay Given. Personally.
I was going to pick Shay Given this week because you told me I was wrong last week. So I was like, right, that's it. I'm just going to go with Shay Given. I said Pavel last week and everyone told me I was wrong. So
who'd you go with? Carol?
Pavel.
Oh, Pav. Yeah, no, that was a good. Yeah, that's a good second choice. Pav will be one.
Who are you going for, Warren?
It's Shay. I said it before. It's Shay Given as a goalkeeper. He's a legend at the club. The competition he had with Shaka and Pavel, and Steve Harper as well. But Shay for me was a wonderful goalkeeper.
Brilliant goalkeeper. He even plays for the enemy as well. So for us to love him as much as we did.
He's the only Irishman that can't sing as well. There's another.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's got the worst voice ever. So don't ask him to get on the karaoke.
Is it not? I'm gonna have to invite him on and have a little sing, a bit of Ronan Keating. So right back, I think there's only really one man we can go for, isn't there?
I would hope so, guys. If not, I'm gonna get my phone in the sun again. Phone in the Californian sun.
Are we all agreeing on Dan Simpson?
I thought you were talking about DeAndre Yedlin.
Definitely Mr. Barton.
He said fullbacks.
So then we'll kick over to left back. Left back's difficult. I always like 3K.
You asking me or you?
I think she was talking. Shade, say that again. Beresford.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say Beresford.
Go on, Warren.
Yeah, that's my man, Bez is there.
Big JB.
Another thing with John as well, he's the best entertainment manager going as well. If you want any party, function, christening, wedding, get Bez to organise it. He's magnificent.
Do you know what? There was a point back then, wasn't it, where you all had like wonderful hair as well. Like you all
Mine
had
was,
like.
Yeah, there was.
Mine was natural. Bez wasn't. Bez come out.
Was it not? But there was that point. There was you, Beresford, Ginola, all just had wonderful hair. Proper sight to behold.
Peter Beardsley. No one does a base. No one does a bowl like Pedro.
Right.
He'd kill me if he heard me say that. He'd kill me. I love you, Pedro. I love you.
There's no back. Right, centre backs. I'm gonna shout out Johnny Woodgate because I shout out Johnny Woodgate every week because I personally think he's one of the best centre halves we've had at the club. Personally, Shade.
I mean, Real Madrid, yeah.
Yeah.
No. I'm gonna back you up on that because I was just I, as a joke chose Rafa Benitez Lascelles, specifically, but I'm gonna go with Woodgate as well.
Woody was class. Warren.
Yeah, I'll be with Jonathan, because when he was fit, he's not like Steve Howe was another one. When they was fit, they was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Problem with Woodgate and Stevie is that they had injuries. For me, I love Philippe Albert.
Yeah.
I love to have a centre half that's cultured with his left foot, and the way he brought the ball out. Nikos Dabizas was really underrated. When you think of Nikos, the big goals that he scored and the team that he played in. But definitely Woodgate, and I think if you could get Jonathan fit and Philippe Albert next to each other, that you got two excellent centre halves there.
Yeah, they'd be unreal. I'll go with that. Woodgate Albert for me.
Yeah.
Definitely too hard. And I mentioned for Colaccini as well. I thought Colaccini was a great servant to the club.
Yeah, he was quality as well.
Right midfield. Warren, I'm going to let you go first on right midfield. I want to know who the best partner you in terms of that side of the field was.
I was lucky because I had Rule Fox, that was a tremendous little player.
It was rapid, Rule Fox.
And Keith Gillespie, that I think everybody remembers that game against Barcelona. Keith was on fire. But again, I just look at Norberto Solano with his delivery, with his crosses that he had, the set pieces that he had, the clever little player he was. Nobby would be my pick from that as well. The only thing with Nobby, he would phone you up at 11 o'clock at night and blow the trumpet down the phone when you was in hotels at night. That was the only thing that Nobby get on his trumpet and blow it down the corridor or on the phone at 11 o'clock at night. But what a wonderful little player. And so he would be my. Foxy was great, and Keith was talented as well, and he was quick as lightning. But Nobby for me was exceptional.
He was brilliant. Such a clever player. Sav?
Yeah, I was going to go with Nobby. I think we went with him last week, didn't we?
We did. I think he's been in every week, to be honest. After Gillespie, no?
Well, no, he'd come a close second, to be fair, because he was up from the area when I first started supporting. So, like, the games that I was watching, he was playing. But, yeah, Nobby Solano. And just said we did have him last week.
Go on, Shade. From your point of view.
I had him as well, but I asked for a little help with that. I won't lie.
He was just great. And when he left the first time, it was awful. He was just so badly, unfortunately, because he was a hell of a player. So we'll kick over to left midfield and we'll start with Sav.
Oh, God, don't start with me. That's really hard.
All right, we'll start with Sav. We'll start with...
Oh, you put me under this pressure last week and I had a whole list down and now I've lost it.
All right, I'll start. Ron Robert for me. It's the best left midfielder we've had at the club.
Scott
Risky,
Sellers. Yeah, Scott Sellers.
You know what? Sellers is a little bit before my time. From when I supported the club and I followed them, for me,
Ginola would for me. If we kept David longer, I mean, Laurent Robert had a sweet left foot. I tell you what, follow him on Instagram as well. He has a life of Riley. If he's not if he's not smoking a cigar, he's drinking wine. If he's not drinking wine, he's eating. If he's not eating, he's playing golf. If he's not playing golf, he's having bottles of champagne, walking through cities in France. So he has a great life. But for me, I've got a special thing with David. You know, but although we only had him for 18 months, but Laurent was as close as we come with him. Because, but yeah, I may be going back a little bit, but either way, I'd be quite happy with obviously Laurent or David. So, but I'll go with the Frenchman. I'll go with David Ginola.
Nice. Go on, Shay.
Different.
So for left, I went with, since I started supporting, and I got to go with Maxi for that. Since 2012, yeah.
I just find ASM so inconsistent, and he seems really injury prone. And I think the fact that he keeps flying back to France so much, I don't think he's settled. I just get that impression. I don't know. He can play an absolute scream of a game and he's great, and then he'll struggle for the next 3 or 4 matches, and then he'll be off injured again. And that's the only problem I do find with him. Like when he's on his day, he's great, but when he's not, he just seems to give up and not be bothered. And that's where, like, when we were talking about the passion in players, where that's quite rife throughout the whole squad at the moment. And that's the only thing I will say about ASM.
Do you not think a little bit is disheartening because the way the team is set up?
Oh, yeah, completely.
Like he's been asked to come and defend 70 yards away from the goal where he wants to try and score and entertain. But you're right, he has that temperamental side to him.
I think he had that history in his last club as well. I think he left under a little bit of a dark cloud, I think.
We've just got to get a Gucci shop up there. It'll be fine.
Yeah, you're right then.
Down Grey Street, we can get him a Gucci store. It'll be fine. He can go in and out there every
day. So I'm going to veto Maxi for the All-Time 11. I'm sorry, Shay.
That's fair. That's fair.
But when you got Robert and Ginola, you just can't. No one comes close to them two for me. But I've pushed for Robert every week, so I will let you have Ginola this week. Just because he was a phenomenon. Like, was it the goal in Europe?
And he's better looking.
But does he get on the piss as much as Laurent Robert? That's the question.
Hey, got great stories. You know, a quick story about David. He was like, no one drinking this, and that. But then we caught him one day. He was asleep on my grass in a barbecue because he'd had a couple of beers. He couldn't drink. You can't drink, David. He said, "Oh, you lot drink too much." He had 2 beers. He was asleep on my lawn because we had a barbecue. That was David Ginola. So yeah, he could drink.
2 beer Dave.
He was good.
You lot absolutely had his life. Yeah, it was a phenomenon. I'll always remember the goal he scored against Farron Faros when he did the kick-ups with his knee kick-up, flicked it and then volleyed it into the corner. Like, that was ridiculous.
When he played against United when we won 5-0, he was unplayable. You know, Gary Neville was a very, very good player, but Gary couldn't get near him. David.
Oh no, he had the game of his life that game.
He killed him, David.
Yeah, no, I was watching the highlights of that where Ginola whips him down the wing and Gary Neville just goes off camera trying to side tackle him. He's gone, and you're like, yeah, that's a phenomenon. It was a great player. For me, the most difficult 2 positions, 2 centre fielders we need now, and I'm going to kick it to Warren first because I imagine your list is sickening.
Wow, but it is easy. It's not. I mean, Gary's speed for me was, again, a top class player. People don't realise how good Gary was because he was so consistently good. Every single, I mean, me and him used to argue like cats and dogs, and we shared a room together for 4 years. But what a player! You know, what a trainer, what a player. So he would get in it, and I love, as much as I love David Batty and Lee Clark, I've got to go with the old dog, Rob Lee. Doggy Lee's got to go in there for me. To have a player at the beginning of his career was box to box, scoring goals, and then he was clever enough to then be a holding midfield player and spray the ball around everywhere. You know, everybody remembers the ball that he gave to Alan Shearer for the volley against Aston Villa, against Schmeichel. You know, Rob Lee for me was a top class player as well. You know, he got 20-odd caps for England, but week in, week out, the dog, he was like, never go out for a drink with Rob Lee as well. There's a quick story. When we was together in Derby, it was only me and him going to have a drink on a Tuesday night. We played golf and we were having a drink. It's only me and him in the bar. I bought 3 rounds before he bought a round. Three rounds I bought. And before he said it, was it my go? We was in the 3rd round. But I love him. But yeah, they would be my two. You said about Kabay and that they're excellent players, but them two were special. Them two were special.
I couldn't agree more. Like watching them over the years. Go on, Sav.
Yeah, no, I was just saying I completely agree. I think, back then it was different from what it has, evolved over time, because the players had more of a closer relationship than what they seem to have now. So yeah, I would completely go for that.
Massively. Go on, Shade. I'm interested to see who you'd put in from your era.
Well, I couldn't speak so highly about Tiote and not include him in my all 11. So
definitely,
I had Tiote for sure, and then I actually wanted to go a little different with my second choice, and I wanted to choose Gaza. Mainly because I read his book, I watched his documentary, and I have a sentimental love for Gaza. So I went with that. But I knew I'd be in the minority there, because I went over that choice with a couple of my mates, and they were like, "Come on, mate, speed! Like, what are you talking about?"
Definitely speed. He was something else. When I watched him play, he was just something else. And you're right about Rob Lee. I mean, he was so underappreciated. Not by us, but he was overlooked in England too many times, and he just had a little mixture of everything. And I'll never know why Hullet didn't fancy him.
Yeah, that was a personal thing. That was again how he took it personal. I mean, for a big compliment as well. Roy Keane said that the toughest three midfield players was David Batty, Rob Lee, and Gary Speed. So I think that tells you a little bit about the competition in that midfield, because David Batty was not only a really good player and battler, but he was a good passer of the ball as well. But yeah, you look at the others. Kieran Dyer was played in the centre midfield sometimes for us, but then too. I always think the biggest compliment is that they could play now. Them two would quite easily get in any team now. Some players at the old times maybe couldn't because how the game is and how it's involved a little bit, the physical side, and you have to be careful with tackles. But them two could play now and still be, quality players in the Premier League.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more. And then we're going to move to plays alongside Shearer.
Alan and another.
No, we've had it every week. There's no one else. You could not have Alan Shearer in the team.
Yeah, no, I think that goes quite easy. Come on, I'm going to go last because I want to hear the competition. I want to hear what you've got.
Go on, Shade.
I picked Andy Cole.
Big shout.
That's a good shout, actually, Cole. Yeah.
Big shout.
I picked Rondon, didn't you?
Andy Cole, Sav.
Andy Cole. Yeah.
I was expecting Denver. I'll be honest. I was expecting Denver.
Yeah, but easy. I wanted to go a little different with that.
Go on, Sav.
I was going to say Andy Cole.
I wasn't. I was going to say, personally for me, in terms of what I gave to Shearer, either Ferdinand.
Oh, Ferdinand, yeah.
Or Craig Bellamy.
Oh.
I thought Bellamy and Shearer together were brilliant. But that's a personal opinion.
So are Ferdinand and Shearer, though, as well.
Yeah. Go on, Warren.
Yeah, I've gone a little bit in the style of football where Les would be in there. Them two together, Alan and Les, was brilliant. The great line that Les said in an interview a little while ago, them two looked at each other and said, right, who we're going to terrorise today? And when you're thinking they're playing against like Adams and Keown, Desai and Terry, and them two could say, right, today we're going to terrorise this lot. Whatever you were doing, me and you, do you fancy it today? And they did. They got 50 goals in 2 years. So they was... Tino was magnificent at home, but never play him away from home because he was a liability. As soon as the socks started rolling down and the tassel on his shorts come out and his shirt come out, get him off because he was never going to last. But at home he was brilliant. But I'm going to go with Peter Beardsley. That link between you see, if you have Andy Cole, you've got to have Pedro, but you can't have Andy and Alan together because they just don't have that chemistry together. But you put Peter Beardsley with either Alan or Andy Cole, then when you're talking. So I'm going to go with Peter.
Good shout.
As my link between midfield and the number 9.
It was great. I remember the season we played behind Shearer and Ferdinand, and it was just amazing.
Well, the year he had with Andy Cole, Andy wouldn't have got 41 goals if it wasn't for Peter. I mean, Andy was, what a player Andy was as well. I think Newcastle fans, we forget a little bit how good he was because of how successful he was at Man United. But that year that he had, he was phenomenal. And a great fella. People don't know that with Andy. The people have that impression that he's really quiet and he's a bit miserable. I've met him a lot of times, and he is a great guy. He loves his football, loves the game, intelligent about the game. He loved his time in the North East. Him and that Lee Clark got on really well. So yeah, it wasn't bad to choose from, you know, that group of players as well. So yeah, you can't really go wrong with either Les, Andy, or Pedro. So yeah, but it's always
not a bad list to choose from.
No, exactly. I'll have him on the bench. Wouldn't you? You fancy your chances away from home with them three.
I wouldn't even take a defender. Just have them all.
Like, we never did. We never did.
They score one, we'll score two.
Yeah, don't worry about
what
that.
memories. Absolutely fantastic stuff. We're going to end it there, and I'm going to say a massive thank you to everyone coming on. Big shout out to Shade. Thank you very much, mate.
Appreciate it.
And a massive
Shade
shout out.
The coolest name ever.
Yeah, brilliant. Class. Change your handle. And a big thanks to Warren.
Pleasure. No problem. Great to reminisce and great to, you know, be invited on. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Warren. Have a good night. Or for you lot. All right, and take care. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Guys.
Bye.
See you guys.
Everyone.
Thanks for having me.